Hi everyone. We will be talking about financial preparedness. To start, let me introduce myself. I am attorney Suzette Palucanag Unay, born and raised in Davao City. So as you can see from my short bio here, I graduated from Ateneo de Davao University and University of Mindanao for my Bachelor of Laws. I started working as a senior auditor way back 2006 to 2008 and have been practicing law since 2011. I worked in PhilHealth for 5 years, and then just recently, I became a licensed financial advisor. Our topic is all about personal finance. So, what is personal finance? Simply put, it is the financial management of an individual or a family's financial resources. When we talk about personal finance, we are actually simply talking about money. Money, how we earn our money, how we budget and save our money, and how we spend this money. So financial literacy in the Philippines is quite low. When you say financial literacy, it is the measure of the intelligence about financial concepts and management. It's about how well we apply these financial management concepts. So in the Philippines, there was a study conducted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. They had seven questions to ask to the respondents to measure the financial literacy of Filipinos. And did you know that only 2% of all of the respondents were able to correctly answer all the seven questions? So financial literacy in the Philippines is quite low. So hopefully through these webinars, we would be able to impart our knowledge to other people so that at least we can put the financial literacy of the Philippines at a higher notch. All right. First, I want you to know what your financial health score is. So I only have 5 questions which are answerable by yes or no. I want you to answer these questions as honestly as possible. And please count your yes answers. All right. So answer only yes or no and count your yes answers. The first question is, do you have a specific time-bound and monetized financial plan? Is it a yes or is it a no? Next question, have you saved at least 6 months worth of income for emergency purposes? Third question, do you have insurance that could replace your income in case of sickness, accident, disability, or death? Fourth question, do you use loans properly? The keyword is properly. Do you use loans properly? And finally, our question number 5, do you have passive income and other investments? I hope you counted all your yes answers. Now, let's see what your score means. If you scored 0 to 2, unfortunately, your financial health score is poor. Don't be sad because you can still improve. If your score is 3 to 4, your financial health score is average. You're actually in a good place, but of course you can do better. And if your score is 5, then congratulations because you are financially healthy. What you need to do now is actually to maintain that kind of score, all right? So now that we know that what our financial health score is, I want to introduce you to the concept of hierarchy of financial needs. I'm sure most of us are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So this model is actually adopted from that hierarchy. At the bottom of our pyramid is protection. What do you mean by protection? Here, protection means income protection. So that's where our insurance goes. So why is protection in the bottom of our pyramid? Because if we are not adequately protected, What would happen to our income? If something happens to us, if God calls us home sooner than expected, do you think our family would be able to continue their life and lifestyle if we are gone? You might say savings should be at the bottom of the pyramid. But what if something happens to you? Of course, necessarily, you would get money from your savings. However, you would not have you would not have to touch your savings if you have insurance which could answer for medical emergencies and other needs, right? So at the bottom of our pyramid is protection. Next is savings. Going up the pyramid is investment. Do you know that you should only invest money that you are willing to forget? So investment is actually money allocated for the purpose of generating returns. So when you invest, of course, you will expect profits. But you should not make investments which you did not calculate because investments have higher risks. And if you didn't know about that risk, you might expect that all investments have profits. So you better research on investments. And last in our pyramid is estate planning. At the top of our hierarchy of financial needs is estate planning. So this includes estate accumulation, where we purchase properties, estate preservation, and leaving legacies, estate distribution. So when we say we will leave something for our children, inheritance, that's where estate planning comes. And do you know that as early as now, you should be thinking about estate planning? For example, if you think if you want to leave a legacy to your children, you should also include preparing for estate taxes in the future, right? So that's our hierarchy of financial needs. Now, when the COVID-19 virus happened, when the pandemic happened, nobody was prepared. And in fact, our government has raised funds for us to be able to distribute some relief goods to the poor families and even government workers who are still receiving their salaries, and other private companies have also looked for ways on how to help. Even the middle class, there's clamor from the middle class to be included in the relief distribution because they said that everybody is affected. And even small business owners, SSS has programs for them. Now, our financial health earlier was represented by our piggy bank. You can still remember. Now, what happened to our piggy bank now? It is in the middle of the ocean. And fortunately, it hasn't drowned yet. It still has a lifeboat. All right. So what do you think of this situation? If we have an emergency fund, then it would not have been difficult for us to cruise in this time of crisis. What is an emergency fund? So, an emergency fund is a readily available source of assets to help people navigate financial dilemmas, such as the loss of a job, a debilitating illness, a major repair to home or car, not to mention the kind of major national crisis the coronavirus pandemic has created. The purpose of the fund is to improve financial security by creating a safety net of cash or other highly liquid assets that can be used to meet emergency expenses. So when you say emergency fund is a readily available source of asset, it means that when you need it, you can get something right away. It's readily available. And it creates a safety net of cash or other highly liquid assets. What do you mean by highly liquid assets? These are assets that can be easily converted into cash. Now, I have another exercise for you. When should you use your emergency fund? Can you use your emergency fund for insurance deductible? By the way, an insurance deductible is an out-of-pocket cost that you pay in order for you to claim your insurance. So, at least insurance deductible, your emergency fund can be used for insurance deductible. How about for vacation? I think the answer is obvious. No. For medical emergencies, yes, you can use your emergency fund for medical emergencies. How about urgent repairs? Yes, you can use your emergency fund for urgent repairs. For really good deals, for the women who see 70% off in shops, please do not use your emergency fund. And for home renovations, the answer is no. You cannot use your emergency fund for home renovations because home renovations are usually big ticket expenses. And you cannot just say right here, right now that I want to renovate my home. You should distinguish it from urgent repairs, right? It's better to save up for home renovations rather than use your emergency fund for it. Now, Dave Ramsey, America's trusted voice on money, said, an emergency fund turns a crisis into an inconvenience. Once I got an emergency fund, I quit having emergencies. Do you see the importance now of having an emergency fund? For example, right now, in this pandemic, most of our people have temporarily lost their jobs or temporarily lost their income. If you have an emergency fund, you would be financially secured because you know that you have money to buy for your basic needs. So, in this time of crisis, if you have been prepared, if you have an emergency fund, this crisis will just be an inconvenience. All right. Now, Dave Ramsey also suggested that an emergency fund must be an amount equal to 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. When you say living expenses, these are your basic expenses such as your food, your water, your house rent, your electricity, and the other basic needs, including insurance. All right. So the 3-month guideline is generally recommended for those who are in a salaried position and have more secure employment. Why? Because you know how much you will earn the next month. All right. The 6-month recommendation is for those who have less stable employment or earn variable incomes. So if you are a freelancer, it is generally recommended to have a 6-month worth of living expenses for your emergency fund. But I have a question. How much do we really need to save for emergency funds? All right. The answer would actually depend on the degree of difficulty you would have to replace your current income. So what does this mean? It's like this. I want you to make a serious self-assessment of your current situation and ask yourself these questions. If I lose my job now, how easily can I get a new employment? Do I have a stable income? How is my health? Do I already have some savings and other investments in my portfolio? So these are just sample questions for you to have a current assessment on your situation. Why is health considered in this one? Because if you are sickly, then there's a probability that your earnings would be affected. And if you are also sickly, there is also a probability that you would need a bigger amount of money that should be saved up for your medical emergencies. So how is your health and how is your family's health? You also need to consider your dependents in making or in building your emergency funds. Now, remember what I said about your degree of difficulty in replacing your income. If you think that is just easy, well, 3 months worth of emergency fund is all you need. Average 6 months, difficult 9 months. But if it's very difficult for you to replace your income, then ideally you should prepare an emergency fund that's worth 12 months of your living expenses. Now, what if I have so much money that I want to save up 5 years worth of emergency fund? Now, this is not practical. A bloated emergency fund is not practical. Why? Because we have other ways for us to earn more with the use of our money, right? We have other investment vehicles where we can put our money on. Now, where should I keep my emergency fund? We said earlier that an emergency fund must be readily accessible. So you can keep it in a savings account, either in an ATM or in a passbook. So if you have just started saving and if you have not yet built discipline in your spending habits, I suggest you just put a little amount in your ATM card and then save the rest in a passbook. Because a little inconvenience in going to the bank to withdraw in a passbook will actually save your emergency fund. You can also keep some in a time deposit. So this is highly convertible to cash. Just be aware of pre-termination fees because time deposit has a maturity date. Now, if you withdraw your time deposit before its maturity date, you will be charged by the bank. And money market instruments. So what are money market instruments? Earlier, we said that your emergency fund can be a highly liquid asset, and money market instruments are examples of highly liquid assets. So an example of a money market instrument is the treasury bill that the government issues. So for treasury bills, these are short-term loans made by the government. So there's 90-day T-bills, 180-day T-bills, and 360-day T-bills. All right. Now, we will debunk some emergency fund myths. Myth number 1, I should invest my emergency fund. Please don't do so. Your emergency fund will answer for life's uncertainties, while an investment is supposedly to generate returns. They are different. They have different purposes. If you want to have an investment, go first build your emergency fund. If you have extra money, then maybe you can make some investments. Myth number 2, I can't start my emergency fund until I pay off all my debts. All right, so if you have a timeline on when you can pay your debts, then maybe you can start after paying off all those debts. But my opinion is that you should not wait for you to pay off all your debts. Actually, you don't know when that day will come. So if you currently have liabilities and obligations, you can simultaneously build your emergency fund while paying off all your debts. Right? Myth number 3, I don't make enough money to start an emergency fund. So acknowledging that you don't make enough money is actually a good start because at least you know, and at least you already know that you have more needs. So if you know that you don't make enough, I think you should do something about it. You can either make a new income stream, find a new job, or apply for promotion so that your salary will increase, or you could also review your spending habits. So, right? So do that, and then since you have an income, you should now start to build your emergency fund. Myth number 4, I already have insurance and retirement fund. I don't need an emergency fund. As I said earlier, these have different purposes. An insurance would actually be income replacement in case God calls you home sooner. And retirement fund is for the longest holiday of your life. You need an emergency fund for events which are uncertain. For example, if you are driving and what if your tire broke? Where will you get money to buy new tires? You cannot You cannot go to GSIS and encash your retirement fund so that you can buy tires. And you certainly cannot, in some instances, you cannot encash your insurance unless it's an insurance specifically for car repairs, right? So insurance and retirement fund are different from your emergency fund. And finally, myth number 5, I am too old or too young to save for an emergency. What's good about saving is that you are neither too old or too young for as long as you start, right? So age does not really matter. The sooner you start, the better. So when should you build your emergency fund? What is the ideal age, the ideal income, or the ideal financial status for anyone to build an emergency fund? Answer to that is now. Start today. Start building your emergency fund. There is no better way, there is no better time to start than today. Right. So just to recap what we have discussed. Number 1, we identified what our financial health score is. And then number 2, protect your income. Number 3, build your emergency fund. How? Calculate your monthly living expenses. Then assess your degree of difficulty in replacing your income. Multiply your average monthly expenses by 3 to 12 months, depending on your degree of difficulty to replace your income, and start now. Also, should practice good financial and spending habits. All right, so thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you would like my Facebook pages, Balucanag Law Office and Consultancy Services, and Davao Insurance and Estate Planning. You can also visit my website, www.davaoinsurance.com. And if you think that your friends can benefit from this video, please invite them to this Facebook group, or you can also send this video to them. Thank you.